Welcome everyone. I know we have some people still rolling in as the nature of this web life allows. People can stroll in when they're available. But we are going to get started in the interest of time, respecting everyone's time that did show up early and on time. Very excited for you all to be here. As you're joining the room, we're just asking people to do us one quick favor. Type in the chat where you're joining us from. So again, city, state, county, etc. And what ancillary business or business opportunities are you looking for from the cannabis industry? And it's okay if you don't know where you want to start or what you're looking to do yet. Hopefully today we'll give you some ideas, but that'll help us also as we're doing our presentation to kind of think through some of the ways that we can be more tailored in our conversation and really kind of support some of your specific needs. So very welcome, very happy to have you all. Welcome. My name is Dwayne Norris. I am the co-founder of the New Growth Center, along with my 5 other partners on the line. You'll get a chance to hear from them, meet a lot of them. Some of them will be in the chat, some of them will be presenting today, but we're all here and very excited that you're here joining us for this webinar series. We've had some other presentations that we've been able to do, but this one is very exciting for us because the ancillary business opportunities in cannabis are vast, and they allow so many people to participate. Those who don't necessarily have a background in cultivation or necessarily know all the different strains and terpenes and all the things that may be needed to do retail at a high level. There's different ways for all different types of stakeholders to participate. And as New York State rolls out this cannabis industry, there's a lot of talk and a lot of strong effort around social equity and making sure that it's an inclusive industry. And so, we want to play our role within that. So the New Growth Center, as we go to the next slide, is a for-profit enterprise. We are a collective of individuals who have come together to bring our various skill sets and knowledge and expertise to this industry. We have individuals who are master growers. So my man David, who you'll hear from as well, master grower, extractor, processor. He understands a lot about this industry, over a decade of experience. Alejandro has been working in this industry for about 8-9 years, doing growing, cultivation. Dan working in CBD, understanding compliance. Myself, I have a background in financial services, which I'll talk about a little bit more, as well as some opportunities in workforce development, working at the government level, a state level. We have folks who are working in finance and real estate. All of us, probably like you, cannabis aficionados, people who enjoy the flower, enjoy the plant, enjoy the edibles, enjoy the medicinal properties, the mental health properties, just the relaxation of it all. Smoke from 14 to 25 pretty much every day of my life. I took then a little hiatus, and now I'm a little more of a part-time recreational smoker. But we're all probably similar to you. Again, passionate about the power of the plant, but also about this shared prosperity that this industry can bring. And so our entire team, as you see on the screen, I'll start with my man Alejandro because he'll be the first one I'm passing the mic to. And also his birthday was yesterday, so make sure you cheer for him extra loud. It feels extra good. But my business partner, my best friend there, again, has been in this industry for 8+ years, 9 years, I want to say it is. For the first time, he traveled over to Oregon to work with David and his team to really kind of understand the growing process, the cultivation process, working there, California, and bringing those skill sets back to New York. He and I run another company that's focused in workforce development in both green construction and clean energy. So some of you are on this call know us kind of more from that space. And so, we want to bring that kind of similar training mindset to the cannabis industry. There's going to be a vast workforce. The OCM estimates around 60,000 jobs are going to be needed, to help support this industry that are working kind of directly in the industry. That's not counting all the ancillary business opportunities, multi-billion-dollar industry we're talking about. So again, you're in the right place. We're all going to be learning together. But the person who knows probably the most and is going to be teaching us the most is our guy, David. David, again, a decade plus of experience working in the cannabis industry. I'm not even talking about his legacy market experience. I'm just talking about from the time he left New York, understanding he needed to get a skill set in order to be valuable to the New York market. He decided he was going to leave his family, leave the life that he knew here in New York to travel to Oregon and learn to cultivate and learn to grow and learn about the nutrients and the growing process, and then do processing and extraction and learn the medicinal properties of all these different strains and products, and then take that skill set to his home country in Uruguay and then start doing international work and distribution And so he and Dan now own a CBD company called Matter CBD, in which they have local, so Oregon and US distribution, but as well as international distribution in Mexico, Brazil, and working on some stuff in Israel. So their understanding of the industry is going to be something that's very valuable to us as a team, but I think very valuable to you all who are trying to get a better sense of where the opportunities are in this space. And as we kind of continue, I'll talk a little bit more about myself. Well, my name is Dwayne Norris. I have a background in the financial services industry for about 17 years, doing retirement and estate planning for the time I was 19, technically till now. I don't do as much of it, but background doing retirement, estate planning, securities licenses, 663, 7. Those are the ones that you need to be a stockbroker essentially. And then doing estate planning, wills and trusts, and legacy planning using financial and legal instruments. So again, we're all bringing our various skill sets together to help you understand that there's a space for you in this industry as well, right? None of us have been working in cannabis since we started the workforce. This is something that we are transitioning into or have been doing, and started somewhere, and we're here now. So as we go to the next slide, we have two other participants who are ideally going to be joining us virtually. Kristen from Cuddy and Fader is a legal expert and an attorney who's working in the cannabis space, mainly out in Westchester, but serving the broader area in New York, and is going to share some things that I think will be very valuable to you all. And hopefully, Kayvon, I know he's been dealing with a couple family emergencies, so hopefully he's able to join us today. We'll be able to speak to you a little bit about the workforce development opportunities in this space, and how CWI, the Cannabis Workforce Initiative, will be able to support that. Next slide. So, we've talked about this a little bit, but why this training? The training is because New York State's cannabis market is going to be huge, probably bigger than any other market anywhere else in the world, definitely bigger than anywhere else in the country. There's a huge consumer base here, and there's only going to be a limited number of licenses that are going to be provided. You can't have 10 dispensaries on one block, right? They're going to have to be spread out. There's going to have to be, some prioritization in terms of how the OCM and the state doles out licenses, and we can talk about that. But essentially, not everybody is going to have a license, and not everybody necessarily wants a license. Not everybody wants to have the level of compliance and risk and the things that go along with working with the plant directly, whether it's cultivation, processing, or otherwise. So having an understanding that there's a way to support this industry without directly working with the plant, I think is very important. And again, projected $2.2 to $2.7 billion by 2026. That's just a few years from now. And some estimates as high as $7 billion is where this industry is going to go within just a few short years. And again, that's depending upon how New York rolls things out. If they end up becoming a little bit more loose with certain regulations, or they make it where there's more opportunity, it could be even bigger. I think cannabis, we're going to talk a little bit as well, but tourism, people coming to New York to consume and for the culture that New York has, I think is going to be a very attractive market. And so I think it's hard to really even predict some of these numbers with what could come here. And so again, who is this for? Intrapreneurs and entrepreneurs, people who work in businesses, people who are starting their own business, who have their own business, who want to provide their valuable products and services, B2B, which is business to business, B2C, which is business to customer, or business to government, which again, for some of the tracking and some of the things that need to happen to make this industry compliant, there's actually going to be some opportunities there as well. So we're looking to speak to you, aspiring entrepreneurs, those who want to be entrepreneurs, or those who already are, those of you who understand how to solve problems, who see gaps and inefficiencies and pain points and challenges as opportunities and want to find ways to fix them. And those of you who are willing to put in the work, because there is going to be work involved. You need to make sure that you're connecting to this industry, to make sure that you're understanding what's happening in real time, following the OCM, following the different trends, going to networking events, going to cannabis association meetings, right? These are going to be very important things for you to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening. And then you're going to also have to make sure that you understand what's happening in terms of compliance and regulations. Because if you're going to be supporting businesses in this space, they're going to be needing you to be up to speed on what's happening to keep them out of potential harm. So that's a lot of what we're looking for to give you a little bit of sense of out of this training. And, we're excited. Again, this is a learning process for all of us. New York State literally just dropped the regulations last week for pretty much all the main 9 license types. So there's a lot to uncover in those 282 pages. We have not read them all. Maybe Kristen has, because that's probably more her job. but we're going to get to them. And that's, again, we're all going to learn and share this information. So next slide. So on our agenda for the day, again, talking a little bit about New York State cannabis regulations, the review, just knowing that all of the regulations now are officially released. Previously, they'd only done the ones for conditional licenses, but now officially there's regulations available for all the licenses. We're going to not review them in heavy detail because we've done a webinar previously on that we'll provide the link to on YouTube. But if you go to our YouTube channel, you can find it there. But we are going to cover some of the license types and some of the regulation that's making this industry available to New York. We're going to cover micro business as a use case, right? Essentially as like a model for how we'll help you understand, I think, where your ancillary business services can support this industry. We'll talk about how you would set up a business or how a micro business would set up and then what it would need in order to support that effort, what it would need to help with branding and marketing and getting its name out there. As we noted, we have one of our guest speakers, Kristen from Cuddy and Fader's law firm. We'll speak again a little bit more about the legal compliance and what's really happening to keep us all aware of what's transpiring. Real estate and development, again, huge opportunities there. These cultivation sites are going to be large. Some of these retail dispensaries are going to have sizable footprints. So just making sure that, again, that industry is being engaged, architecture, engineering, and design. We're going to speak a little bit about workforce development with Kayvon. Then we're going to talk a little bit about products, services, and post-production. And then we want to hear from you all. So again, this is not all encompassing. There's industries in here that we definitely didn't touch on. But just know we are aware that there's going to be opportunities for a number of you who do services outside of the scope of what we provide. Next slide. What we provided on this webinar. So with that said, I would love to do a handoff to my man. And again, it's his birthday yesterday, so clap it up for him. Give him a little extra energy. Alejandro, how are you, brother?
Thank you. He likes to remind me how old I am. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. So hold it strong, always. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the love in the text as well. So again, super excited to be here as well. Again, it's my birthday and I get to share it with all of you, right? It's one of the best parties I've probably ever had in my life with the most people that ever showed up to my birthday. So I'm winning here. So I would like to start to give you all a little bit of an overview, right? What's very important as we get into this space is to really learn the language game, right? The vernacular that comes in getting into a new space. There's been a lot of news that's been coming out. There's a lot of things coming out through media, social media, news anchors, and things of that nature that have led people to have maybe a misconstrued understanding of what this industry has to offer. So in the next couple of slides, we're going to have a very simple and basic overview of the current regulation here in New York State. And like Dwayne had mentioned, we have had a previous training that you could check us out on YouTube to be able to get a much deeper dive into it. Can we go into the next slide? Thank you. So to begin with, for us and all of us on this call, and I'm sure pretty much, I would say all of us here, whether it's a team or attendees, how important social equity is going to be for this space, right? Many of us have either dealt with it personally, second by family members, or just being able to be a witness to what the impact of the war on drugs, specifically on cannabis, right? There's been lives tarnished. There's been so many individuals as well that their futures have been taken away from them because of this prohibition. And now that the legalization is here and this commerce is here to stay, the OCM, which is the Office of Cannabis Management, they are very much focused on the social and economic equity of being able to bring those that historically have been most impacted by this war on drugs to be able to be at the forefront of opportunities. These communities are known as the minority and women-owned businesses, MBEs or MWBEs, distressed farmers, or service disabled veterans. All of which, whether you're applying for licenses and or as an ancillary business, be able to acquire an MBE or WBE, whether in New York City or for the on a state level, really gets you at the forefront of opportunities, right? And not just for the cannabis space, right? One of the main things that we want to be able to bring to the forefront here is that we are speaking about the cannabis industry, but once again, this has to do with any business or any industry of this magnitude of what the supporting services that are needed, plus the opportunities that are there, such as for minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, distressed farmers, and this service disabled veterans. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. So we've been dropping OCM a lot tonight. I'm pretty, some of us may know who they are. I recommend that everyone that is interested in this space to become familiar with the Office of Cannabis Management. Please check out www.cannabis.ny.gov to be able to stay up to date on all the regulation news that are coming out from their office. They're responsible for managing this industry. And I highly, highly recommend to also sign up to their newsletter.
I just want to note, and I'm sorry to interject, I just want to note for everybody that we actually made a typo. So Christopher Alexander is actually the executive director of the Office of Cannabis Management. So that's a typo on our side. Yeah. Just in case you saw that.
Thank you very much, Dwayne. Always helping us out, keeping us on point. So yes, and again, individuals that you should be familiar with, okay? Christopher Alexander, Tremaine Wright, and Damien Fagan. All of which you're going to see a lot. They've been coming out in the news. If you've been attending a lot of the cannabis events, especially those hosted by the OCM, Tremaine Wright has been very much active, super helpful, answering tons of questions. And again, they have such a large undertaking, and they're trying their best in one of the states, or probably the biggest state, I would dare to say, next to California, to be able to regulate and make it successful. So it's not an easy lift that they have. And not only are they trying to make the business side something that is, excuse me, that can be an easy on-ramp for anyone that wants to participate in this space and also be successful. But once again, putting that social equity at the forefront. And what's also even more exciting, and we'll talk a little bit about later, is the fact that they're also so focused on sustainability. Right, they're really creating a strong ecosystem to make this space healthy and vibrant. So again, right now also they have an open comment period for regulation. So highly recommend for anyone that has any thoughts, concerns, ideas to please become very active and vocal. This is the time to do it. And once again, you get that type of information off the OCM website. Can we go to the next slide? All right, awesome. This is what I get super excited about. As Dwayne mentioned, right, we have been in this space for about 10 years, right? David and I, we speak about this all the time. We went to high school together. We used to have to sneak out to the parking lot or find little parts of the school, whatever we were at, to hide. And one of the things that dawned on me today, we were having this conversation in another event that we're not only worried about getting caught and getting suspended, detention, that would, probably be the least, but we could get actually locked up and go to jail because of consuming this on where we were doing it at, right? So to be able to see this level of control, misconception, and again, this level of fear that was instilled in so many of us, to now see these opportunities at the forefront, and be able to be here with you all to educate you all and bring to light some of the opportunities you could take taking advantage of is super exciting. So again, like we mentioned, we did go over this presentation in our last workshop. So if you want to get into the deeper understanding, please check out our YouTube video. But we'll go over the different license types. So we have adult use cultivator, okay, or more so on the nursery side. Adult use cultivator and adult use conditional cultivator. What that means is this. Right now, they have just released the conditional licensing, which has been for cultivation, processing, and dispensaries. After these licenses have been all assigned to, we will then be able to open up the market to the adult use cultivator and adult use processor and so forth. Again, as you can see here, not only can you be a cultivator, you could take a step back in the process and become an adult use nursery. From there, if you do not want to be in the nursery space or cultivate, but much rather do the processing work that David will speak to you down the line, is another license that you have. Okay. What's important to understand from these all these licenses, one of the things that the OCM is really much adamant about is that they are alleviating vertical integration, right? What that means is that they're really trying to make sure that these MSOs that are coming out of state are not coming in and taking over the whole market by being able to do every single license type and box out the space. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, we also have adult use distributor, adult use cooperative, adult use micro business, where we'll, as Dwayne mentioned, we're going to be using that as the use case for the rest of the presentation. Adult use retail dispensary, adult use on-site consumption. Next slide, please. Adult use delivery, and the last two are more so for the licensees that have acquired, were able to participate in the medical space. Next slide, please. All right, adult use micro business model. So again, team, if out of all the licenses that we have available, the micro business model is the only one that allows a certain level of vertical integration. Again, there's definitely limitations if you decide to pursue this license. But again, it gives a great case study as far as what the whole industry would need as far as support for these ancillary businesses that we're here to speak about. Next slide, please.
Hey, before you move on, that slide right there, that's a picture of my lab from 5 years ago, at least one half of the lab. And as you can see some stainless steel tables, some ovens, and et cetera, something that we're gonna go back to in the presentation. Thank you.
So, adult use micro business. So micro business means licensee that may act as a cannabis producer for the cultivation of cannabis, a cannabis processor, a cannabis distributor, and a cannabis retailer. Once again, this is why we chose this, because you can see it's everything from seed to sale. So it encompasses the whole industry and the supports that it needs, as we again discuss the ancillary businesses that will help make the industry as a whole successful. Next slide. All right, awesome. So with that said, as any business that we're going to build, whether it's in the cannabis space or in any industry, again, there's certain phases, right? General phases. This is arbitrary. Again, I know we could get into a debate about where certain things goes, but again, on a basic general level, this is pretty much the phases that we would have to go to be able to launch a business, right? First is the business setup, okay, an entity structure, real estate and design build, and lastly, the products and services and post production. So as we go through the presentation, we will be covering each of these phases into much more detail. And again, bringing in subject matter experts that can really bring in life experiences. And again, you could all ask, hopefully at the back end, be able to identify questions that you may want to ask depending on the phases that you all may fall into. Next slide.
Absolutely. Right. So starting with phase one, as I said, my background, financial services, a little bit of not legal work, but I work with a lot of attorneys to set up wills, trusts, advise clients. So I'm no legal expert, but thankfully we have one in the building. So as we get to the end of this section, we'll bring Kristen from Cuddy and Fader in to provide some additional perspective. Not all on things legal, but just the things that we all would want to know about this industry. But again, as you look at setting up a phase, the first thing you're going to need is a legal team. So if you're a cannabis business, a micro business in this instance, as we're using as this model, and you want to set up your business, you're going to have to get incorporated. You got to set up an entity. You got to get things like SOPs. You got to get contracts together. Contracting agreements and leasing agreements. Having a legal team is very, very important. So we go to the next slide. This is going to be a very highly regulated industry, just like every other legal cannabis market that's out there. There's a lot of eyes watching. There's a lot of expectations for those of us who are looking to set up a retail or any other type of cannabis business. So as a micro business and you're doing all these various things under one roof, trust me, there's going to be a lot of scrutiny, a lot of compliance and legal issues that you're going to need to navigate. And just having a strong legal team is going to be very, very important to that process. So anyone in here who's doing legal work, know that this is a space for you. And legal hand in hand with compliance. There's going to be a lot of desire for the state to be able to have real-time access to your process. So seed to sale is a term that I'm sure you're going to hear a lot, but they're going to want real-time access to the type of seeds that you're using, the type of cultivation process, how much you're growing for your dispensaries, how much are you product are you selling. So transparency is going to be a big one, and making sure that you're staying in compliance with whatever the state guidelines are going to be is going to be extremely huge. For the products themselves, there's going to be testing requirements. There's certain compliance standards that are around the product of how much THC content they can have and what needs to be on the packaging, on the labeling. So compliance across the board is just extremely, extremely important. And so make sure that that is something that you're putting at the forefront of your process. And again, if this is an area where you could support businesses in this space, that's a good space for you to be in. Next slide. Banking and finance. Again, this is another interesting one because there's not a whole lot of clarity quite yet. We can look at what other states have done in terms of banking and finance and kind of know that there's going to be a very cash intensive business. Credit cards are not traditionally allowed to be used to purchase products at retail dispensaries. You usually have to use cash or some form of debit card potentially. And we're expecting New York to be no different. Now, which banks are going to allow for these transactions and for cannabis-based businesses to set up banking? It's still a little bit TBD. There's a couple that have come forward and said, we're excited for the cannabis industry and we want to support this industry. And these are going to be the type of banking opportunities and instruments that we have. And then others who have kind of played the wait and see. So a lot of the big banks, the JP Morgan Chases, the B of A's, the TD banks have not really made a firm stance on how they're going to do cannabis banking, but I could promise you they're not going to pass up on all this money. They will come out with some type of offerings, whether they're providing loans and all those other things is to be determined. But I could tell you just from speaking with a number of cannabis industries or cannabis businesses in the industry, the bullet points that you see there are a lot of things that they're interested in. They want secure handling of all of this cash. We've actually talked to banks that are based out of Alabama that do a lot of work there, but they're trying to be in the New York market, and the service they look to provide essentially sending trucks to your location, armored trucks to pick up cash and bring it back to their location for deposit, because they understand that having high amounts of cash can bring potential risks. People want FDIC insured, right? You want to be able to put your money in a bank where you have FDIC insurance, which essentially just means if the bank goes under or there's some type of financial trouble with the bank, your money is usually guaranteed $250,000, potentially more if there's different things there. You want easy and accessible. You want online access to banking. You want to be able to pay people, not with cash, but you want to be able to pay them with online features and ACH payments and direct deposits. So having banking that is supportive to the industry is extremely, extremely important. You'll hear this over and over and over again from people in this space. So just know if you work in banking, talk to your bank supervisors, your bank managers, and advise them that this is an opportunity, that this is a space that you would like to be in, and they should help you kind of figure out what those regulations for that bank should look like so you can participate. Next slide. Accounting and payroll, right? Another big one. Transparency, huge here. Federally illegal. So cannabis is still not legal on a federal level. It's still level 1. So, we cannot assume that state and federal is gonna play nice or be the same. And so having an accounting firm that understands what's happening on both levels is going to be extremely important, and making sure that you are being accountable and being transparent with your earnings, your revenue is also very important. If it's a cash-based business, tendency for a lot of cash-based businesses is to not report all their income. That's one of the, things that people in cash-based businesses tend not to do, is report everything because it's not recorded in the same way. That is not a thing that you want to get involved in this industry. So having transparency around accounting, having transparency around your payroll, noting who's on your payroll is working in a cannabis-based business, who may be in an ancillary business. Again, very important that you have some type of mechanism for that transparency. So these are opportunities that you want to be cognizant of. And please, Dan.
Yeah, and Dwayne, I was going to take over just because we have some experience with this. So as my team has introduced me, I'm Daniel Carvalho. I have been in marketing and advertising and sales since I was 16 years old. And I have my own full-scale digital marketing and creative agency called Gifted Design Lab. And I never thought I would be in the cannabis industry, 10 years ago, looking back at it. And my brother-in-law, who is David, another one of the speakers, he kind of talked me into this crazy idea. And then I started realizing how important my skill sets are in the cannabis industry, and how there's a lot of a lot of cannabis businesses that are lacking that type of support. So we went on this crazy ride together, and years later, we're here now, and I'm fully ingrained in the cannabis industry. And we had our learning experiences when we created our CBD company, our cannabis-based company in Oregon called Matter CBD. And accounting was one of the things that we kind of didn't really worry too much. And then all of a sudden, when we talked to our accountant, he started telling us all the nuances and all the things that happen in the cannabis industry. So having an accountant that is fully versed in all these things, that the restrictions in cannabis, the things you can expense or not, is super important to make sure that you're compliant. And compliance in cannabis is integral to your success as a business. Now, I know that stuff is very necessary, super important, but now we start getting into a little more of the fun stuff, and a little bit about what I do, and some of the partners that we have. And having branding, graphic design to build your brand is an incredibly important part in cannabis. There are so many restrictions and guidance that you need to follow, guidelines that you need to follow in terms of how you label your products, how you package them, is it child proof, all these things. So if you're a company that builds, that prints and designs labels and all these things, start learning about the cannabis industry, because there's a lot of cannabis companies out there that need this help, that need you to get in there and learn about the culture, learn all the different things that you can do to really differentiate your brand. And there are so many partners that we have that had no idea how much their skills were necessary in our even our business as an ancillary business as well. So you're talking content creators, photography, videography, clothing designers. These are things that really kind of put you in a different level when you're a cannabis business. So this is a very important part of the cannabis industry as well. And then obviously, now this is your other part of your real estate, the digital part, your website design. And I know a lot of people may think, okay, like I can go and build a website on WordPress or something like that. The platform that you pick is very important because of all the restrictions in cannabis. There are so many different POS systems out there, but only a few that actually work and are compliant in the cannabis industry, especially when you're talking about THC, more so than CBD. And you have to make sure that you're looking at, and if you're looking at this as an agency and you do website design and you do anything in terms of the digital side, you should be aware that there are only few integrations, and you can get a lot of clients if you are niche and you focus on cannabis and you research and you know exactly what platforms work with what, and then you start talking to your client and figuring out how involved you want to be. Do you want to create a website that your client can host and manage on their own, or do you want to go and kind of stay on retainer? So there's a lot of little things that we as a resource, we definitely add a lot of these things into our value propositions and how we consult, and you guys should too. And now we are also talking about marketing and advertising. As easy or as simple as it may sound, because every single business does have to have some sort of marketing and advertising, the cannabis industry makes this incredibly difficult, because Google, Facebook, Instagram, all of these major platforms for advertising, they do not let you do specific things when it comes to the cannabis industry. And there's nuances in terms of how you position your product. You cannot suggest any sort of health benefits obviously no targeting kids or anything that, might even be targeted towards underage people. And also you can't have people consuming the product or smoking it. So there's a lot of pieces that kind of restrict you as a marketer in the cannabis industry. So there are a lot of cannabis industry, and we've seen it ourselves, a lot of cannabis businesses that go through this process and then they're like, I can't advertise. And then I have to go to, and advertise on Leafly and Weed Maps and all these things that are kind of, like an aggregator and allow you to do these things. But you have to be savvy in how you go through the major platforms, focus on content creation, and focus on email marketing and make sure that you're using the right platforms. So if you are a digital marketer, go into the cannabis industry, do your research. There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of ways that you can go and use your current skill sets and go and transfer that into the cannabis industry and make you guys a lot of money too. Now, on that note, we're going to go back to introduce Kristen. Please, Kristen, tell us a little bit more about yourself. And then Dwayne and myself are going to ask you some questions as well in terms of how you and also Cuddy and Petter can support the cannabis industry.
So thank you all so much for having me, for asking me to speak. I am really excited to be here. I'm also excited to still be in the office because my house doesn't have power. So that's great. So I am a partner at Cuddy and Fader, which is a law firm, a real estate-based law firm in the Hudson Valley. And I also chair the cannabis law practice here. And so we represent a number of potential license applicants in New York State, as well as a lot of ancillary businesses working in the cannabis space, looking to work in the cannabis space, property owners who are leasing to businesses, banks in the space, and investors too, a lot of on the other side of deals and investing in new cannabis businesses. So we have a wide range of services here, and we're also very involved in, whether it be a local bar association, local groups, and working with the new Grow Center. So, I think we have a pretty good pulse on the emerging industry. It is changing every day, as you heard. And, I think we're all grateful to have some kind of regulation now. It was a long time coming, but we do our best to stay up on that. So,
and on that note, you noted that it's kind of changing very quickly, rapidly. What are some of the pain points that you've seen as you've been working with some of these cannabis-based businesses, whether they're looking to set up a cultivation site or otherwise? What are some of the pain points and challenges that have kind of been exposed to this process?
Yeah, right. So I'll say over the last, year and a half, it's really honestly been the significant delay in the program. And that's not a knock to New York State, right? I really do want to echo what was said earlier. I think they're trying to be thoughtful about this process. They're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to encourage small business and social equity and diversify the market. But the delay has been a huge pain point for not just applicants, but the ancillary businesses too, because we just don't have questions answered. So we don't know. It's a big game of tea leaf reading on where can we cite this, right? Where can the businesses actually go? What are going to be the municipal restrictions on that? Which there's still a whole bunch of uncertainty surrounding that, but we know more than we did a month ago now that we have these regulations. But as I mentioned, the uncertainty is a huge pain point. Municipal restrictions. We still don't have regs on delivery and on-site consumption. There's the ongoing injunction out of the federal court that's holding up some card licenses, right? So that's creating some uncertainty. And we still don't have caps on the number of full adult use licenses in each category that are going to be issued. But we are in a much better place. I think now that timing is more known, we're seeing more investors getting into the space. I mean, even in my practice within the last week, right, we're getting more calls. A lot of our applicant clients are saying, hey, now my investors want to lock it down, right? Now they want to do the deal. So that's good. Another challenge is really explaining the limitations on vertical integration in New York State too, which was hit on a little bit earlier. Now we know it's more of a two-tier system, and that's separating really like the retail and the growing and the supply side of things. But for folks who are coming in, whether you have experience in the cannabis industry in other states, or you've heard things, New York is very different in the sense of limiting that vertical integration, which pretty much means, to dumb it down, if you grow, you can't really sell retail point of sale. Now, there are exemptions and exceptions to that, but that's the overall rule. So that's a pain point for some people getting established here too, is to understand, and even still with the guidance we have now with the regs, that they're going to have to kind of pick and choose what aspect of the industry they want to get into and who they want to support, because the OCM has limitations on parties of interest and even investors, right? Not just applicants, and even consultants working in this space. So, I would say that, and I would say one other thing. I know I'm probably using up a lot of time here, but it's a very good question.
Worry. Go for it.
The local land use challenges are a big pain point too. So what we know is that the municipalities had an opt-out for retail, and that was last December 31st of last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have challenges with applicants on where they can go, especially retail applicants, right? Because there's so many municipalities like here in Westchester, where I am right now, that opted out. So they can't have a brick and mortar store in a lot of the municipalities. So they're forced into the municipalities that didn't opt out. Now, within those municipalities, they have to try to find available property in a zoning district that's going to allow them to do this. That's either not federally backed by a mortgage, right? Or there's a landlord willing to lease, or they have enough money to buy the property outright. So a huge pain point is kind of coming with securing the real estate, given like federal prohibition and the municipal rules that are coming down too.
Thank you, Kristen. That's incredibly helpful. And just to follow up, we won't bother you too much, ask too many questions, but what ancillary support services would be most beneficial to license seekers?
Yeah, I think the answer is really a lot, as you guys had mentioned, right? Everything from like your point of sale to your banking. I also, I do a lot of land use approvals, municipal approval work, and I see the need for engineers, architects, and traffic consultants who know the industry and know this space. Because I find myself having to explain to them what the unique challenges are, right, of a dispensary and how it can work. Okay, well, we have this much parking and this much traffic. Can we do mobile order? Can we do some kind of curbside pickup? Now drive-through is an option. And trying to explain even to architects how the flow works, how we have a security area. And if you're familiar with the industry, it's going to be a lot faster. And honestly, from an application side of things, that'll really shine through on an applicant's application, right? They have an architect, they have an engineer who know what they're doing. They're familiar with the space. They know how a cannabis business operates.
Excellent. So obviously you get a lot of information because you're dealing with a lot of clients, and have a broad network and you're part of associations. How would you, I guess, suggest or recommend that people on this call who may not have the same access but want to get more information, get more informed, get those resources, and any resources you may recommend? I'm sure you're going to recommend reading the 282-page regulations. I'm sure that's first
No,
on the
that's
list.
my job. I don't recommend anybody do that. To echo what was said earlier, just read the OCM website, right? That's a great, they're on LinkedIn, right? They're on Twitter. They're posting guidance all the time. The good thing that OCM is doing is they have like these cheat sheets. They're like little brochures and they're facts, bullets of the guidance they're putting out and the regulations they're putting out. So it's really it's not like you need to take the 300 pages. You can if you want, but you should try to follow OCM as best you can. Follow the Cannabis Control Board. There's a lot of blogs, there's industry associations and postings. So that's how I would suggest staying in the loop with all of that. And yeah.
Last question before we let you go, and this may be one that you pretty much answered on some level, but just any specific challenges or pitfalls that you're seeing, again, unique to this industry, separate and apart from other industries that you help people to kind of set up businesses in or protect them in. Any specific challenges and pitfalls that those who are looking to open up a cannabis-based business, a micro business, a cultivation, etc., need to be aware of. And then in turn, if you're an ancillary business, maybe that you can think about how to best support them in avoiding those types of pitfalls and potential risks.
Right. Yeah, well, I think a lot of what I said earlier holds true for the cannabis business as people who are looking to actually get a licensed operation in terms of your municipality. Early and often with those conversations, this is not like a regular development, right? You need to, and if you're on the retail side, you need to gain support from your municipality to even submit that application to OCM. And you need all of your local approvals to do it. And that means, your special permit, if you need a rezoning, if you need a site plan approval. So you have to have early and often conversations. That's usually what I quarterback, and the value I think having an attorney on your team can bring to kind of level the temperature in the room and bring all the right people around the table before you go to a planning board meeting or a zoning board meeting and things turn out a little bit hysterical or they take a turn for a direction no one was planning. I think in terms of your ancillary businesses, that's a very, very good question. What we're seeing is from a contract basis, whether it be with your bank or your insurance company, right? Even if you're an architect or an engineer or you're, a title company, whatever you're doing, just check some of that stuff because there is still federal prohibition, right? So there's no blanket answer to
Of course.
so what the right path is. I'm just telling you should probably look at, like your insurance policies, look at if you have malpractice insurance, if you, have any kind of leases or banking agreements, just make sure that you're not going to be in violation of those by working directly for a cannabis business. Look at that true party of interest guidance and the information and the regulations that have come out because there are limitations on work that can be done across the two-tier system, whether it be for cultivators or retail dispensaries, right? So I know that might be kind of in the weeds, but it's really important to understand.
No, it's really valuable insight and yeah, very nuanced. It's like, when people have their homes, flooded by a hurricane or something like that, and then it doesn't get covered. Like you're saying, look in your policies, make sure that what you have as far as contracts will stand up as you're working in the space. And that's a big opportunity, I think. Thank you so much. I don't know if you'll be able to hang around for any Q&A at the back end, but
yeah,
we put your
definitely.
information in the chat. But if there's any other information you want to share in the chat, please feel free to do so. If you want to hang around to the end, we'll do some more Q&A at the back end. But thank you so much. Really appreciate it today.
Thank you.
And I think your segment led us right into the next phase. We're going to talk about real estate, architecture, design, and really, again, some of these opportunities that are huge. So I will pass it over and let the team take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kristen. That was so helpful. And I think you should have just queued this slide up. You said you literally hit all the main points and everything we're about to talk about, which is awesome. And again, for everyone in the audience, it goes to show, right? This wasn't even planned out to for the Q&A that we just had with her. This is very organic, and for her to really hit all these points and also from experience, right? So in this next phase that we're going to cover, we're going to be speaking about real estate and development, the architecture, engineering, and the design that comes with this space, construction and contractors, security, and workforce development. Again, a quick little background before I toss it over to David. Another thing that him and I share is that we're both come from the trades. I was a carpenter for about 10 years. I was part of the union. And really saw a lot of opportunity in that space and see the opportunity that's coming and transpiring as far as development, construction, and all the necessary systems and services that are needed to be able to create a functioning business, right? So with no further ado, as we keep bigging up our boy David over here, our subject matter expert, please take it away. Next slide.
I'm on mute. You guys talk way too good about me, man. You guys put me on a pedestal over here. First and foremost, thank you everybody for joining. I'm a little bit sick. So y'all gotta bear with me and my coughing a little bit, but I'm not gonna let my team down. Yesterday, we had a presentation in Mount Vernon. I wasn't able to be there. I'm a little sad, but I wasn't gonna let my team down today. I'm here, I'm present. I'm gonna start with my part of the presentation, which is real estate and development firms. My experience, I also have loads of years of experience in heating, air conditioning, and construction. And this is something that I see most beneficial. Ancillary businesses, it's in construction, real estate, and development. When we get into real estate, if you're a real estate agent and you're here today, you should be knowing the legislation. You should know what the legislation say. You should know what the licenses do and what they don't do. Example, if a customer comes to you and they ask you or they tell you that they want to pursue an adult cultivation license, you should know that this license provides you with 5,000 to 100,000 square foot of growing. So you should be aware of that. If it's a micro business, you have a cap in cultivation that's 3,500 square feet. You should know that. That should give you somewhat an idea of what the space should be. You should also be working with a professional to help you understand what these licenses entail. If it's a micro business, you're going to be doing extractions and retail. So now you need 3 physical locations for it. If you're doing retail, one thing that you should know is 500 feet away from a school or a church in order to have this. These are information that are going to make you valuable. So when a customer comes to you and you have it off the rip, you'll be able to, give this information to your client and you'll look somewhat smart. You can tell them I told you, but it's okay. Let me move into architecture and engineering as what's her name? Katie said before. Kristen said before. She sees that the most need comes from architecture and engineering. Architecture and interior design are going to be huge for on-site consumption or retail spaces. This is going to be where you shine. If you're doing an on-site consumption lounge, for example, right? You need to create an experience. And who's better than somebody who's creative? Who's better than somebody who's already doing architecture? You should be on camera if you can. Who am I now on camera, bro? You talking to me? I can't see you. My bad.
You're good.
So, all right. So if you're doing architecture and interior design, that's where you're going to shine. If I want to go now, again, adult consumption lounge means that they're going to be able to sell flower or products at the spot, and you'll be able to consume it at the spot. But here's where it's beautiful. If you want people to consume, let's say you have a restaurant and you have an outdoor patio, you can say you're weed friendly and you can have people consume at the spot. You're just not going to be able to sell it, but you're going to have people to consume it. So now you're weed friendly and you can still have events that are going to be weed friendly. So you're not out of the industry. You don't need to have an on-site consumption license because you're not going to be selling there, but you have a space in which you can now utilize. So if you're doing events, if you leave an outdoor space, and I say outdoor space because smoking and that kind of consumption indoors in New York, you can't do. You can't smoke inside. It's just the same thing as tobacco laws and everything else. When we get into engineering, here's where I love this. I'm not an engineer, but I've been able to thrive in this industry because of my heating and air conditioning background and my years of experience in engineering through my father and everybody who I met throughout my career. Not only do you have to design bomb-proof extraction facilities and other retail spaces, but now you can transfer over to creating and designing extraction equipment. In extraction equipment and in extractions as an industry, you have a whole bunch of other businesses that are going to benefit from this. So in extractions, we have 4 different solvents, right, that we're using. Ethanol, we're using butane, propane, or CO2. Those are solvents. You can be a provider. Stainless steel. There are stainless steel tables that you need to use, whether it's agriculture or extraction. Stainless steel equipment, gloves, pumps, vacuum pumps, ovens, vacuum ovens, freezers. I mean, you can benefit from a lot of stuff just outside of the actual extraction license. There are many other companies, for example, maintenance for freezers, maintenance for HVAC. Yeah, I know we got to keep an eye on the clock, y'all. You guys let me loose, and I just start talking and I lose it. My bad. I'll move on to HVAC. I think HVAC is good. HVAC, electrical and plumbing, but HVAC especially, environmental control. Environmental control, it's key. Without environmental control, you have nothing going on. From humidity control, temperature control, airflow, it's going to be, it's everything. If you're going to do indoor growing, it's absolutely everything. If you're going to be drying your product, it's absolutely everything. If you're having a retail experience, it's absolutely everything. Electrical as well, plumbing, etc. On this slide that you see here, this is a video that my dad sent me about a week ago. My dad is actually on here. What's up, Dad? How you doing? If you see the video, these are air source Daikin heat pump systems. This indoor facility. Oh wow, my thing's dying. This indoor cultivating facility, it's in Oregon, and we'll be having 96 lights inside. So if you're an electrical contractor and this is the kind of facilities you're going to be a part of, you have to be very, very, very careful. Because 96 lights at 1,000 watts, there's 96,000 watts. That's a lot of electricity. When you have 8 5-ton systems, it's 40 tons of cooling. That draws a lot of power. If you see the bottom video, I show the kind of dehumidifiers that we use in here. We install these dehumidifiers we're going to have available at the grow store, by the way. And in regards to the Daikin air source systems, I think Dwayne is going to talk about sustainability and efficiency. And another quick thing that I want to talk about here is about the lights. In the same place that we're growing this, we were having a conversation with the owner, and he was going to pay $100,000 for 96 lights. And because of what they were able to work out with the lighting company and the government, they were able to get rebates and drop this down to $50,000 on the sale through government rebates. That's something you have to be aware. So if you're going to build this business, these are all things you need to be aware in order to be profitable. I heard somebody yesterday at the Mount Vernon call that it'll take $1 million to open a retail space. Be very careful with the stupidity that comes out of people's mouths. All right. Make sure you get someone professional to come talk to you, because some people are just here to discourage you from joining the industry. Don't let them do that to you. Next one.
Okay, hold on. Really quick before we move on to that, team, I wanted to also add, right? And as far as ancillary businesses, you want to be able to look at the space again as these businesses get built out. You need the same things as you build out an office space, a convenience store, right? So everything from having a GC, your subcontractors, having estimators, having the building supplies or the tools, safety services, right? Inspectors, everything all the way, again, that is needed in the space. In the construction space, in the general space is going to be needed here, right? And this is again, as you heard from David and I, we're both very much immersed in have great experience and great history with this space. That it'll be great for if any of you have this type of background, a business that does this type of construction or this type of work, to start taking advantage and start, again, as David said, doing research to see what lane and how you could be able to fit in the development of the infrastructure.
And also, when you were talking, when we'll get into workforce development. What do you mean turn off my phone, bro? I'm getting messages. You guys are killing me over here. You distract me, Dan. I'm trying to get this done. As far as workforce development, if you're an HVAC tech, and you want to make not more money, but you want to move into the industry, you are great for extractions. This is about moving gases from one end to the next. It's about thermodynamics. It's something that you're already doing. If you're an HVAC company, it's something that you can get into. I recommend you to get into it. And yeah, that's my last little pit point on that part, brother. Security. Yeah, well, security, whether it's digital or actual physical security, building these places, especially indoor cultivations in retail, they have a high security sense. Everything's tied in with cameras to the police, especially retail, and they're gonna have live access to your locations. But it's absolutely necessary, at least for a few more years, that we have high security in all of it. I saw somebody in the chat who's in he does fencing. In Oregon, for example, if you were doing outdoor growing, you needed to have your crop surrounded by a fence covering it from people to look at it. That's part of security. But other than that, you're gonna need security staffing in your retail. I have a friend in Brooklyn who's looking to open up a few dispensaries. They're looking at $6,000 a month per retail space in security alone. That's a great business to be in. Transport of the product. I think Dwayne was talking about this, and then we're talking about this transporting, whether it's money or product. Product would be a distributor. You would need a license for that. But if it was money, then that's a great business for you too, and that's part of security. Security training, I can't talk much about that, but because I don't do that. And and the design of the facilities, right? That goes back to architecture and engineering, and designing the secure places. You have to be up to par with what the legislation asks you to have. And that's about it for me in security. Unless you have something to say, Alex.
Thanks so much, man. Thank you, David. That was really great, man.
Appreciate it.
And so, yeah, there's a huge need. Security guards are going to need to be on site in most of these places. So that's where the training opportunities will come in to make sure that you have, the proper staffing opportunities. As we go to the next slide, we're going to talk just a little bit about workforce development. I see Kayvon has joined us, which I'm excited for. Again, there's a lot of staffing, training opportunities that are going to be needed. As I said, this is coming from the OCM, estimated 60,000 workers needed to really fulfill the need for this space. 5 million square feet of canopy needed. So just a lot coming. And so, Alejandro and I have a long, extensive background in workforce development, as he noted, training people for green construction jobs, clean energy and energy efficiency roles, doing work with air source heat pumps, thermal, electrical systems. And there's going to be a vast need. And on the other side, when you're looking just at cultivation, retail, their skill sets are going to be very valuable to this industry, and we want to really be able to speak to that. So, Kayvon, we're really glad to have you. I know you are in transit and doing a lot of things, so we appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight.
I parked up because, it's definitely an honor being on the platform, and, regardless of what I got going on in my different, schedule and agenda, I'm always going to make sure I can prioritize, helping out, because what you guys are doing in the New Growth Center is just something that's amazing. It's iconic and it's historic. And I'm glad that you guys are doing what you're doing. And I'm happy that it could be aligned in the organization that I'm a part of, that I'm able to help, fulfill whatever dream, we both have aligned.
Absolutely.
With that said, how's everybody doing? My name is Kayvon Reed. I am the Community Engagement Coordinator for Cannabis Workforce Initiative. With that, what we do is we focus on pre-employment and career exploration training, which provides an overview, holistic point and understanding of the cannabis industry, and it'll allow you to get a better understanding of the industry as a whole. The big keyword I want to piggyback on what Daniel was talking about, how there's so many of these ancillary businesses, but you need to understand the vernacular and certain particulars of the industry that are going to allow you to succeed. And what we do with the pre-employment and the career exploration training is we give you that vernacular and we give you that overview access so you're able to make a conscious decision into going into the industry moving forward, whether you're currently in the industry as a grower. Thank you, my brother, for dropping in that for dropping in our website, or even when you're looking as a different, like, you know, in the ancillary field, it'll give you transferable skills that you already have that you're just going to understand where you can fit in and where you can place yourself within the industry moving forward. A little background about CWI. It's a collaborative between Workforce Development Institution and Cornell Law School. So with that said, the workforce development side, that's where we focus on the training, but also on the Cornell side, we focus on clinical expungement. So that's a big thing, and that was one of the big facets where it hit home for me, where there's a lot of brothers and sisters who've been actually impacted, who's going to be able to have a better understanding of the law moving forward and even get access to expungement opportunities as well.
No, that's awesome, man. You guys, as I said, you were doing amazing work, and that's why we were so excited to connect with you, link with you, because we feel like we're kindred spirits. There is a vast need for oh man, that I just noticed the hat you're wearing, brother. That hat is
oh, come on, bro. Oh, y'all thought it was just thrown in the closet? This is fire.
So yeah, so much that's needed, and again, as we talk about social equity and the need to really make sure that this industry is diverse, that those of us who have been kind of at the front lines of the prohibition and the communities that have faced so much of the harm are being represented in the workforce and being represented in the business community. Again, just applaud you and your team for the work that you're doing and how you're approaching supporting businesses and workforce in this space. So anything else you'd like to share with the group as far as?
Yes, I definitely want to let you guys know, transparently, this organization is funded by taxpayer dollars. So I want everybody to understand that when we're asking where the social equity money has been allocating, I want you guys to understand that this organization that I'm working with is an actual tangible resource of social equity, being able to be the vehicle. So this is actually what the social equity money is being funded with. So that's why the targeted communities that I focus on are our communities. I don't sit here and call them impacted because we already know it's impacted. It doesn't need to be said. It's our communities. And that's the most important thing. And that's what I represent. I represent the culture. I represent the streets. I represent the hood. That's really what I represent. And I'm going to make sure that it doesn't get denounced. Even though we're from these places, we're not devalued. You feel me? And that's the most important. And me being able to be in this space and continue being this representation of our culture for who we are in this position, I'm going to continue doing what I got to do.
Absolutely. We appreciate you for doing it, man. This is the time, right? This is really the time to make sure that we're putting ourselves in a position to be successful in this industry. And before all the big, large MSOs and all the big operators and the big funding comes in, that those who want to participate are understanding how they can start to stake their claim. So we appreciate you. And thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you. I appreciate it.
Many more events to come.
Yes, many more. And if anybody who's actually watching currently has opportunities or any events coming up, we provide sponsorship. I'm going to drop my email in the chat below. Please contact me. We do provide sponsorship funding.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Chat. No problem. Thank you guys for having me.
Stay blessed, man.
Thank you, Kayvon.
Thank you, Kayvon.
Thank you, Kayvon.
So as we transition to kind of the phase 3, we really want to talk again about where the opportunities are in some of the product lines, product chain, supply chain, and post-production. Again, it's just, there's a huge opportunity here, and we want to make sure that you all are getting a sense of where you can participate if these are the skill sets that you're bringing. So I'll pass it back over to David. We're running a little lighter on time, so we'll try to, take a.
I'll try to move quick.
move at a good pace so that we can make sure we get to Q&A as well.
Well, the good thing is that when you let me loose, I start talking, and then I go through what I was supposed to speak now. I already went through it.
There you go. I was just gonna say. Now
I'm reading
now you
this
can move
now.
a little
I'm like,
quicker.
"Man." So again, manufacturer and distributors. As you can see here, we have HVAC, our dehumidifier, right on board there. Lighting, if you're a lighting company, anything involving lighting, solar panels, great industry to be in now. And one quick little story here on the last picture, which says ambient light. That's my business partner back in Uruguay, and this is where you got to get creative. In my years of cultivation in Uruguay, it's a country with very little resources, right? It's a country it's known to be a third world country. I don't know where the second world went, but apparently we're from the third, not the second. Since we do have very little resources, we couldn't find a tank big enough for us to make our teas. And so we hired a pool company to make us a special fiberglass pool to make us this tank. So you talk about an ancillary business. If you're a pool business, you can make water tanks, especially for in-ground. That's something that we had to do because we didn't have the resources. That's a cute little story there. Here, nutrient supplier. Perfect. This is what we do. This is the New Growth Center. Great ancillary business. I can tell you from experience. Here's what we have. I mean, all the products, right? You can have whether you're making soil or you're making your liquid or granular fertilizers. I mean, just anything agriculture and anything to grow with, right? So even equipment. If you like to make scissors, I mean, anything and everything. And I think we're going to touch extractions next. But another thing that we never really talk about is parchment paper. This industry is based on an oil substance. So any product that's repellent to oil is going to work great in this industry. Keep that in mind. Extraction and testing. Facility managers. Well, yeah, that will be that will be a job, right? Technicians, solvents. Again, butane, propane, ethanol, CO2. These are the four more common solvents that you see in extractions. If you work with in any of these industries, you'll see an influx of work with this. There'll be a lot of this going on, and transport for this is very dangerous. So transport for this is going to be a great business. Remember, you can catch one or two of these businesses, and you can make a lot of money selling this the solvents. Lab testing supplies, or extraction facility supplies. Parchment paper. Parchment paper, it's used so much. If you can buy and sell parchment paper to these facilities in bulk, you'll become a billionaire. Not a millionaire, a billionaire. It's like there's so much oil being spilled everywhere all the time that another thing that we never talk about. I've seen a few budget proposals that were sent to me, and in none of them I saw alcohol. That's how I know you know nothing about the industry, is when I don't see alcohol in your budget. Alcohol is probably the most used product in the industry. I mean, in bulk, and I'm talking about in bulk. Lab testing equipment, obviously, this is great because let's say, for example, lab testing for the product, like microbial fungus, and all that kind of stuff you're gonna have to have a license or be accredited by the government as one of the companies that can do this kind of testing. But one thing, if you don't have to be accredited for, if you're doing water or soil testing, those are two great ancillary businesses in the part of testing that you can make. You're going to be part of the industry. Testing soil and testing water is going to be crucial for your operations. Then what we have coming after that is the different products that you can create. This is an idea that I've seen come to fruition. Soaps, drinks, cosmetic, chefs, pastry shops. Do we have that on the next slide or no? This is it, right? You just want to talk about this? Okay. So let's say you have a pastry shop, or you have a restaurant, you're a cook, and you have these recipes, and now you say, well, I don't have the money to apply for a license. The municipality won't give me the okay to do this. I don't know how to handle or extract oil, whatever the reason may be. A good thing that you could do is you can reach out to a processing facility or a processing company, come with your recipe to them, create a brand with them under their license, and then you can sell your branded product to the dispensaries as well. You can do that. You don't have to have a lab for you to create your THC products. You can bring your recipes to an accredited processor and create your brand with them. It's not going to say their name on it. It's going to say processed by them because they have the license, but it's your brand. So as an ancillary, that's like a gray area, right? We don't have a license, but yeah, we do have a product. That's a great way to go about it. I give too much information in this webinar.
David, on that note, too, we're going to go into, in the interest of time, guys, I'm sorry, but also we're going to talk about some of, in the same wavelength that David is talking about, these kind of like gray areas, ancillary businesses that will support the cannabis industry. This is more, cannatourism, we call it, and transportation, whether you start your own, taxi, kind of like Uber company to help transport customers to dispensaries and cannabis events, or you go fully onto the cannatourism where you are a niche business that supports these like cannabis infused foods restaurants that experience what ancillary businesses go into supporting restaurants as a whole, and you can find a niche part of that industry. Same with preparing tours, and whether you're touring manufacturers, processors, extractors, that's a very big industry in also legal states as it is. And same with cannabis hotels and resorts, your linen company, your maintenance, plumbing and everything. These are all going to be intertwined with the businesses, just because every business will need that type of that help. And then if you are into fulfillment, distribution, logistics, to David's point, yeah, you can't deliver cannabis because you need a license for that, but you can deliver the actual equipment. And even on our case for the New Growth Center, where we had to go and find the best products and nutrients and everything organic, we had to go to the West Coast, and they had to freight it over to the East Coast. So that's another type of business that you can explore. And then, on that same wavelength of events and cannatourism, this is a very popular ancillary business, and it's event planning, renting out venues. That's what's happening right now in New York, right? That's basically all we can do to a certain extent, is having these conversations and going to these venues, hosting these events, and then you could be a planner. You could go and plan business conferences or holiday parties and talk to cannabis businesses to put those things in. And something that's super popular in the West Coast and Colorado and everything is wedding planners and wedding favors and things like that are cannabis themed. So look into that. It's actually really, really cool. And I wish I would have done it in my wedding. But on that note, I'm pushing it off to you, Dwayne. I know we're pressed for time here.
No worries. I think the team will stay with us a little bit later.
I think so too.
I think, again, we've covered a wide variety of opportunities. That is not an exhaustive list. There's many more opportunities in this space, but hopefully that got your wheels turning. Things start percolating. You start seeing how you can connect the dots, where you can participate, what kind of relationships you may need, what kind of partnerships you may need. And hopefully you'll view us as a resource, but everybody in the chat is a resource, right? We're building a community. So make sure that you are connecting with each other. We have different events that we're going to be continuing to host, both online and in person. The next thing that we're participating in is we have the opportunity to partner with the Bronx Community Foundation, and they're doing a Bronx dispensary showroom. And a large part of the reason they're doing this is because they supported, through their Cannabis Hub initiative, a number of different participants to pursue the CARD license, the conditional adult use retail dispensary license for justice impacted individuals. 35 of them applied. I think so far 3 have gotten awarded as of last week when they announced. And most of them had never been in a dispensary. So they're potentially going to get a license to run a retail dispensary, but either because they were incarcerated, haven't traveled out of the state, whatever the reason being, don't really know exactly how a dispensary functions, haven't really spent a lot of time on the back end of it, understanding the POS, the inventory. So this is going to be an experience for anybody who wants to participate, but really they're kind of making sure that the community that they're looking to help get retail opportunities in this space, understand it from a really much more first person, real world perspective. And once you can kind of see yourself in a space, you can kind of see yourself in a business. So join us for that, the 9th to the 11th. We'll have more information coming out post event. Next slide. And resources that we have, these are just some, again, not exhaustive list, but sign up for our newsletter. We're going to continue to have events and different things that we're going to be educating the community about, different trainings and workshops that we're putting out. Follow us on social media. So our Instagram is probably our most active page, at The New Grow Center, at The New Grow Center on Instagram. Follow us there. Contact us with questions, email. We're very active on email, social media, and everything in between. So you can DM us. We'll get back to you. Visiting the OCM for updates. That is that's the blueprint right now, that everything is coming from out of the OCM is the most up-to-date, accurate information. Anything else you're hearing out here could be true, could be false. OCM is really your guidepost. And as Alejandro mentioned, the comment period is open. So make sure that you're providing commentary on the regulations and the things that you may like to see adjusted or adapted. That 60-day period is open. And then once that period is done, they're going to basically reconfigure them, rewrite them, re-release them. And then there'll be another 45-day period where you can provide additional feedback. And then ideally they'll look to sign them into law after that last final period. So stay engaged, come to events, Cannabis Association meetings, networking meetings, hit us up, watch webinars, get informed. This is your most valuable resource, is education. So we really appreciate you all joining us today. Again, many more of these types of events and things to come. But as we close down, we really still want to hear from you. So we welcome people to raise their hand, put something in the chat if you have questions. We want this to be a little bit dialogue, but as we now come to 8 o'clock, if anyone needs to go, feel free to do so. But we'll stay on for a little bit more to engage. And, one of the things that we're also providing is, for those of you who want to do cultivation, some complimentary consultations. So if you have a current grow operation at home or otherwise, and you're kind of just wanting to kind of get some insight, David is taking some 15-minute consults, really helping you understand what you may need to do to set up home-based indoor, outdoor grows and things like that. So, medicinal cards are also available. We'll help you guys navigate that if that's something that you're interested in doing. Use us as a resource. And again, thank you all for joining us. It's been a great night with you all. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Kayvon. Thank you to my team, all the presenters, Jose, Carlos, Fabian, everybody in the chat. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
And yes, slides will be available and recording will be available. We'll make sure that those are sent out to you post-event. With that said, any questions? I'm looking to see if there's anybody with a hand raised.
I'm looking at the chat, and then I'm looking at where people are joining from and their background, and it's incredible. The cannabis industry is so beautiful to see all the people from different backgrounds come in. What's up,
Kirsten? You got a question, Kirsten?
Actually, I just wanted to share something. I'm a consultant. I've been involved in the industry in some way or form for a couple of years now. And I have a background in marketing, advertising, and things like that. So one of the things I did want to advise is that people should sign up for a Proton Mail or some sort of encrypted mail account. Just to get started, just to be able to separate, your personal stuff as well from business stuff. It's free, and they also have like a lot of protected rights and privacy, as well as ways for you to be able to share private information, especially since it's kind of iffy in terms of like the legality in certain places. You just don't want to get pinched in a situation where somebody grabs an email or something gets posted and sort of getting in trouble. So it's just a suggestion.
Thank you for that input. That's really great to know. Thank you.
Yep. That's awesome.
Anybody else with a question, comment? And that could be for us. And Kristen is also here. So I don't want to say you're getting free legal advice. So,
But Dwayne, as
in
well,
that
to
sense,
Kirsten's point, that's the very reason you partner with people that know what's going on in the cannabis industry. And honestly, whatever your current job or career is, just type it in Google and put cannabis after and take a look at what's going on. It's a very easy, very basic starting point, but you will see the type of the type of help that you could potentially give to people in the cannabis industry, especially in a market like New York that's just starting out. We see David and I see it ourselves in Oregon, where it's been legal for a few years, and it's almost the same situation. So just keep that in mind. Just do the basics. Put your industries and put cannabis and look on Google and see what kind of support there's currently out there.
Thank you. Great comment. Any other thoughts, comments, questions, concerns?
What is the next meeting? When is the next Zoom? Or you going to email everybody, I guess? Huh?
Yeah, we're going to email you. So we're looking to have an in-person. We actually want to do our next one in person. We just have to figure out a few logistic things with the venue and some other things. So hopefully that'll be in December. And if not, it'll be in January. But we really are trying to build a community around this. So the virtual things are great because it allows us to reach a wide variety of New Yorkers. So whether you're upstate, Staten Island, I know where some of you are participating from. So it allows us to reach kind of the entirety of New York State with these virtual webinars and meetings. But we do know that there's a lot of power in getting together and having community. So we're looking at a hybrid. So I'll say stay tuned. Come to meet us in the Bronx if you're available. But I'd say probably January is where you'll see the next set of webinars and in-person events rolling out after the holidays. I want to say Joy the Godless.
Like that name.
Yep, Joy.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I wanted to know because I was interested in opening something like a coffee shop and lounge type of place where like you could get infused foods. And I wanted to know if there was anything any of you could kind of touch on in the food aspect, like what are some things I should think about when developing a space like that involves food.
What is your idea in respect to food? Like what are you doing?
Okay, so one of the things that I currently do is that I develop like a brand of infused baked goods, teas, butters, oils, where like I make the cannabis oil or vegan butter or pies, things of that nature. People would buy like gift baskets. And I started to like develop like a membership where like kind of on a membership basis, you pay a certain amount a month and you can get like a fruit back. You get like the baked good of the month and the tea of the month or whatever, but you can also come into the shop and sit down and have a nice hot infused tea and like a infused pie or something, the same way you would do at like a Starbucks or something. So like a cannabis Starbucks,
So then that would be an on-site consumption because now you're having people to come in and you're going to sell products there. Now, if you're not going to be part of the production of it, remember you can only be part of one of the licenses. So if you have an on-site consumption, you cannot be part of the creation of the product, right? So on-site consumption would be the license that you'll be going after. It's great. I think there will be many products coming out for consumption, like coffees, like different products that you're going to be able to use. But you have to give time to time. You have to give time for the industry to catch up to it. There are only 8 processors so far. So something that I said previously in this webinar, you're better off of building a brand with an existing processor and then getting the product out there. I think it'll be faster than having an on-site consumption before you reach that product. So depending on what you want to do, if on-site consumption is what you want to do, then that's you're great. That's the license type that you want.
Thank you for that.
I think I'm more like interested in the brand aspect of it. with like something that's just a little bit easier because I want to kind of be like the cannabis Sara Lee. You know what I mean? Like I want to create like frozen products that you can just pick up in your supermarket eventually, something like that.
The cannabis Sara Lee. I like that. You should coin that. Kristen, I think you had something you wanted to add.
Yeah, I wanted to add two things. So first, we don't have regulations for the on-site consumption world yet, so we don't really know what that's going to look like. In terms of processing to add to foods, we know that there can be some kind of baked goods, but the regulations do right now, and they're in draft, contain some guidance that says that cannabis can't be added to like commercially available food. Right. So we don't know what kind of limitations and where we're waiting for more guidance on what that actually means. But I just want to caution you based on what was just said, right? The industry is still catching up. So it doesn't mean that that's not going to be a possibility for you. It means that right now, OCM isn't really contemplating that like pre-packaged, aside from like a cookie or a baked good, whether it be your pizzas or whatever, your peanut butter that you had mentioned, I think that's going to be slower to come out for a number of reasons, right? Whether it's like lab testing, and safety of food in general. So we're going to have to wait for the industry to catch up. And in terms of the on-site consumption, that'll be allowed. We just don't know what that looks like yet. So stay tuned.
Thank you. Coming from the expert, it's awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kristen. Very insightful. Any other questions? Comments? Anyone wants to share what they may be looking to do in this space? Again, very excited to have you all here. And hopefully we get
why you never say I do a good job, man? I said the same thing she said, man. And you're like very insightful.
I give you props.
You did a great job. We're supposed to be allowed to hear ourselves talk,
Yeah, you're just more professional than I am. That's all.
Great job, David.
Great job, David.
As I said, we appreciate you, David. You might not have seen that. Scroll up, you'll find it. Kirsten, you had another thought?
Yeah, I just wanted to share that the kind of consulting that I do for anybody who's on the call, I do like some idea generation. So if you have an idea and you're trying to kick tires and you're not really quite sure about what you do, what to do, or where you might have to get your first 3 or 4 steps, you can give me a ring. I put my information in the chat. A lot of times, and again, I come from a product and a project management and design background, so I have a lot of information about actually how to start up businesses and to structure businesses. So sometimes, you have to be a little bit creative. So for the person who was just talking, it's more or less and everybody correct me if you hear me saying anything that's wrong, but it's more a case of if you come up with a recipe for a chili oil, and you establish your brand as a chili oil. And then eventually when everything, when all of the legislation catches up to the situation, then you think about partnering with somebody who can maybe, you can partner with your brand to maybe release an infused chili oil. It's that kind of stuff that you have to sort of get in front of. And it's a little bit difficult because the closer you get to the plant, the more control that's going to be, and the more unlikely it is that you're going to have a lot of control over your creative brand if it's centered around. So I often advise people to just kind of think about the space, think about where exactly you want to be, and then think about all of the steps that would have to lead up in society to get to that point. Not just like a right of the pen legislation that all of a sudden cannabis is everywhere and it's free, but like all of the different steps that can get you into the market and get you the brand recognition. So then when actual cannabis like infusions drop, if you're doing edibles or something like that, you're in a good position to be able to take advantage. So just my 2 cents.
Thank you for that. Oh, quick question. I know you said you've been doing this for the last few years. Where have you been based out of? What state or what areas have you been working in primarily?
I'm in New York, but from a background perspective, I work with a couple of different growers in a lot of different states. In California, I know a couple of people who are in cloning. So, and I happen to have a very good friend who is somebody who's kind of certified to be able to do the THC testing and things like that. So, I'm just somebody who I'm a bit of a fixer. So I know a couple of people in a couple of different places. And you know, I've studied in Bordeaux with wine because there is an opportunity, you know, same kind of idea that the expectation is that cannabis, just like wine, is going to kind of get into a very unique space where there's going to be like different types of aromas, different types of like tastes and feels, and we're already seeing that. So it's, I like to kind of spread it around and just try and help people as much as possible to just kind of bring the opportunity to communities.
That's great. No, there's going to be a lot of need for creativity. We were at a closed door session with the OCM a couple weeks back in Harlem. And, you know, we're doing these roundtables because OCM really wanted to hear from community about some of the things that they were experiencing. And again, concern of the large retailers, the big companies that are coming in, the big brands. I think we've already seen a little bit of it, right? They're trying to make their presence felt. And, you know, the concern was, how are some of these smaller companies really going to be able to create a brand, especially if as a retail, you're going to be limited to just 3 dispensary locations potentially. And, most of what you're going to have on your shelves is other people's product, because you can't do vertical integration. You can't create your own product and necessarily create your own brand. And how's that going to allow you to expand out? And one of the things that we kind of talked a lot about was the need for that creativity and that culture to really kind of shine through in your messaging and your branding. And that creativity that New York is known for, I think is, again, what's going to create a lot of Canada tourism. Is what's going to bring a lot of people here. But having people like you who are thinking outside the box of how you can make your products stand out and differentiate from some of the big players, I think is going to be very important. So, yeah, thank you for what you're doing. David, you had something you want to add?
Yeah, there's 2 questions in the chat. One from JT that said, "How do I get a cannabis card?" I'm guessing he's saying a medical cannabis card.
Yep, probably. I would assume. JT,
So-
if you're there, you could feel free to elaborate, but you could reach out to us. We are in contact with a medical license provider who could probably potentially assist. I don't know the circumstances around your health, but we could put you in contact with somebody.
And then there's a second question that says, "Do you guys have any resources on state funds?" No, we don't.
State funds for what? I'd be curious to know. State funds for what? Because we did talk a little bit about the sustainability, environmental, and some of the clean energy technologies. I do have contacts for those state funds. So if you're looking for incentives around like air source heat pumps or solar, things like that, we have a lot of. I work with Con Edison and NYSERDA on a pretty regular basis, and there are incentives, right? So as David mentioned, somebody was able to get basically half the cost for the lighting that they needed for their operation. Those are incentive programs that are essentially funded by NYSERDA. That's our New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. There's a lot of legislation right now around environmental standards and compliance and things that need to be adhered to in the state. And the OCM is making sure that a lot of these businesses that are looking to get a license are adhering to those. And so leveraging those incentives are going to be important. So those are the types of state funds you're referring to. Yes, as far as like state money to get money to do a dispensary or a retail, I don't know. That social equity fund has yet to really be clear of how that money is being utilized and dispersed and who can apply. All that is kind of still a little bit in limbo. If Kristen has any insight on that, I welcome that. But I think we're still waiting to hear how that $200 million fund that the state put together is going to be allocated.
That's only for retail, right?
On retail, they actually said they don't plan to use it for that. So from the conversation I had with the OCM, this is a couple months back, for the card licenses, those are conditional adult use retail dispensary licenses that, again, some were issued last week, and the rest of the 100 and plus we're waiting for. They have worked with the Dormitory Authority for New York State, right, DASNY, to find the locations to help outfit and kind of retrofit these locations and make them available for the dispensary license holders. But there's no other state money that they've said is going to be used for operations. So they have said that they don't expect to provide resources that are going to be available to do staffing and get supplies. That you're going to have to find that investment on the outside. Now that could change. So still kind of waiting to see again how that funding is going to be allocated and how it's going to be supportive to retail and other license holders. So if anyone has more updated information on that, we welcome that.
And on that note too, we do have resources to help you also set your business plan up if you do want to go after private, investors and funding, because right now it's really all you can do for cannabis-based businesses. So we can help, and we do have a network of professionals within each industry that can also chime in and help you finalize that business plan and go forward.
And note that social equity, again, as it's described in the law and as it's described on the website for the OCM, is going to be pivotal to all the applications. So looking at how you're thinking about not just making money from these businesses, but reinvesting back in the community or supporting the workforce and supporting small businesses, your supply chain, like thinking through those logistics is also going to be very important. And that's another space where we're happy to help and consult and work with you to think through what a sustainability plan could look like and what a social equity plan could look like to make sure that you're adhering to all of these different requirements. Very, very important on that note.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, if there's no other thoughts, I know we have to drive to Albany, so we'll hit the road here soon. But any other thoughts?
What are you doing in Albany? Tell the people so you can hit the road and then you out.
Dwayne always explains it better. What am I doing in Albany?
I guess I can. So our business partner, Alejandro, was appointed to the New York State Cannabis Advisory Board. And I'll share this in context of what we just talked about in social equity. So as we noted, there's like a whole, ecosystem around this industry. There is the Office of Cannabis Management, which are all essentially state official workers that are overseeing this industry and helping to write the regulations and roll things out. They're overseen by a body called the Cannabis Control Board. And that's a smaller board that helps to make sure that the approval processes are happening. So if you've seen any of the live meetings that they've had, that's the Cannabis Control Board. You're not usually seeing much of the OCM in those meetings, except for Christopher Alexander making his comments. And then there's an advisory board that was selected from different industries, different regions in New York State to help advise the OCM and the Cannabis Control Board on what social equity should look like and what's happening kind of on the ground, right? When you work in Albany, you're kind of sometimes removed from all the things happening in the state that are impacting these local communities. And so Alejandro is representing the Cannabis Advisory Board, and essentially what his role will be was to listen to community members, bring those ideas and thoughts and things that you all care about to those conversations and to those meetings so that they can help to inform the way they go about their business, but also the New York State tax revenue that's received from this industry, as well as the license fees are going to go into a revenue fund. And that revenue fund right now by New York State standards is allocated where 20% of those funds are going towards mental health services and other drug prevention and wraparound services. 40% is going essentially to schools and supportive services and education for the municipalities and areas that have opted in. And then 40% is going to go into a reinvestment fund that is going to be allowed for right now just nonprofits essentially to apply for grants for funding to reinvest back into their communities. And so the Cannabis Advisory Board is going to be essentially voting on who is going to receive those grants and what communities will receive those funds. So my man over there is going to have an important role in this industry and overseeing hundreds of millions of dollars of tax revenue and making sure that it's invested properly back into the communities that need it. And so tomorrow is actually the first in-person advisory board meeting. Been one virtual, one ethics, back and forth conversations on email, but the actual first in-person meeting will take place tomorrow. So it's kind of exciting to see all the other board members. The only ones I actually know, sad to say this, know by name is Ebro in the morning from Hot 97, but we're excited to meet the rest of them as well and just really kind of connect and get a better understanding of what their hopes are for this industry and how they intend to, serve their communities.
Looking forward to it, team. Thank you. And yes, it was a good presentation. Thank you for everyone. Ready to rock, team. Sign out.
All right. Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Follow us on Instagram, connect with us via email, phone call. If you need supplies, nutrients, we got that, but also just resources. And let's build out this community, right? We learn more together. Learn so much from Kristen, from Kirsten, from Joy. These are the conversations that we want to continue to have to really understand where are people looking to go and how can we best collaborate. So thank you all for joining us. Hope you have a great rest of the night.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you,
Thank you.
Kayvon.